Hey guys, and welcome back to Gabbin with Jessa. In today's video, I'm going to be starting a new series that I am so excited about. It's going to be If You Love This, Read This. Basically, if you love one form of maybe a music, song, TV show, movie, anything like that, I'm going to give you book recommendations, whether that's my personal recommendations or reviewing recommendations found on other websites. I am so excited for this because a little while ago my friend sent me probably the best reading recommendation list for me, and that is the 57 books that you should read if you love the MCU movies. It is 3 book recommendations based on every single MCU movie from Iron Man to Infinity War. I love the MCU movies. I think that they are so full of fun characters and heroes, and it's just a great way to escape into another world, just like reading can be. This is a list from Epic Reads, and like I said before, they're going to have 3 book recommendations for each movie, so I thought that I would dive into each of those books and compare it myself, see if I agree or disagree with what Epic Reads has to say based on the movies. The list and the series of videos are going to be going in release order of the MCU movies, so not in chronological order of when the movies take place, but when each of the movies came out. So that means we are of course starting with the man that started it all, the 2008 movie Iron Man. Iron Man was the first release of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or MCU. The MCU is something that Marvel Studios and Kevin Feige have created and deemed all of the Marvel movies that have taken place that are currently owned by Marvel Studios and by Disney, that just encapsulates all these movies into one universe, one franchise. Nothing like this had been done before when other movie series and genres like the Iron Man trilogy, the Captain America trilogy, and the Thor trilogy all came together in one movie, and it all had plans. There were points brought up in all the different movies, and this started back in 2008, and it has exploded into this phenomenon that is the MCU. So Iron Man starts us off with Robert Downey Jr. as a titular character, starring alongside Gwyneth Paltrow, Terrence Howard, and Jeff Bridges. It is directed by Jon Favreau, who also plays a part in the movie, and it is based off of the Iron Man comics from Marvel Comics, created by Stan Lee, Larry Lieber, Don Heck, and Jack Kirby. Tony Stark, while on a trip to war-stricken Afghanistan to show off his new Jericho missile to the US soldiers because he is the heir of a weapons manufacturer, ends up getting ambushed in his convoy and then later kidnapped. During the ambush, Tony is actually injured by his own missile that was used against him by the enemy and those who captured him, but he is kept alive thanks to an electromagnet in his heart created by a doctor that has also been kept prisoner in the cave with him. After escaping, Tony realizes that there is more to him than he realizes. There's more to him than just being the heir of this weapons manufacturer, and he wants to change for the better, not just for himself, but for the world around him as well. So the first book recommendation from Epic Reads was The Thousandth Floor by Katherine McGee. The Thousandth Floor takes place in 2118, 100 years in the future in Manhattan, in this beautiful futuristic world. We follow the stories of Avery, Lita, Iris, Watt, and Rylan as they realize that their lives are going to be completely changed, because when you live high up, the only place that you can go is down. According to Epic Reads, The Thousandth Floor was a good choice for Iron Man because it has such futuristic tech. There's like these drama between the characters, and the future is just so flawlessly presented to us in the present. Anything that seems futuristic, it's so grounded in the present. One thing that I definitely do agree with for Epic Reads for this is the futuristic tech. There's just so many things that happen in this book that seem nearly impossible, and I think that's a lot to go with Tony Stark's tech as well, because what he creates and what he designs, not just the Iron Man suits, but everything in like his little lab in his house, just everything just seems so amazing and impossible to do, but it is something that is there in the present. It's something that can happen, and I definitely got the future techie vibes from this that is also displayed in Iron Man. There is also a work relationship that takes place that reminds me of Pepper and Tony, how they started off as a work relationship, but I'm not going to say who it is in this because that will be giving things away, but there is that, so I wanted to point that out. And one thing that I think really stood out to me while reading this book that reminded me a lot of Tony was that he wanted to be able to create something that would better people, that would be perfect, that would, you know, he's so now invested after what happened to him to create something better for everyone else. And that reminds me of one of the characters, Avery. This isn't a spoiler because it's mentioned right away. She's actually genetically perfect. She was made to be genetically perfect. And while those are two different kind of aspects to look at it for the meaning of perfection, I don't know, that's just what I got from this, that two people were either created or being created or creating things that were meant to be perfect, that are meant to be the betterment for people. And finally, the last point I got from this was that there's a lot of bots that are going around, you know, helping people out, especially when you live on the higher floors, because that means you're richer. And that just reminds me of Jarvis, because Jarvis basically does everything for Tony, and he's kind of a bot, so that's what reminded me of the 1000th floor. So yeah, I agree with Epic Reads here that there is a lot in this book that does remind me of the original Iron Man movie, and I do recommend this. I actually really love this book, and I can't wait to continue in the series. The next book that Epic Reads recommends is The Thief by Whalen Turner. After being captured and thrown in jail for stealing, Jen is given the opportunity to be released thanks to the King's Scholar, because they need to track down this ancient treasure. And the story is of them tracking down the ancient treasure and Jen trying to prove to the scholar that he is not just a tool, he is an actual person. According to Epic Reads, their description of this was kind of short. It just said that it is a novel that started everything, because this is the first book in a 6-book series, I believe. It's either 5 or 6 books. I'm pretty sure it's 6. And so that was the description of what gave to Iron Man, because Iron Man was the reason that the MCU got started. If it failed, we may not have the movies that we have today. So like Iron Man, The Thief started a series that was really well known. What reminded me of Iron Man in this book was that Jen, the main character, starts off in a prison cell. That's what we see him, isolated in a prison cell, which reminds me of Tony being captured and put in the cave, being isolated in the cave. Yes, he had Yinsen in there with him, but he's still kind of by himself in an area that he doesn't know, that he's not familiar with. And that reminded me of Jen too, because they start off in the situation that is not a good one. Also in the beginning, both of the main characters are given a task to complete. For Jen, it is to help track down this ancient treasure so that they can take it. And for Tony, it's to build the new Jericho missile. So they both start off in the very same way of being alone in a place that they're not familiar with, being prisoners, and being tasked to do something that will hopefully maybe eventually lead to their freedom. They're not really sure, because you know, you can't really trust anyone. And finally, also Jen, the main character, kind of reminds me of Tony, because he's a little bit cocky. He thinks very highly of himself. He thinks that he's such like this great thief or whatever, just like Tony thinks that he's, you know, very high of himself as well. He thinks very well of himself because he's so smart and everything. And granted, yes, both the characters are very, very well skilled in both of their areas, but they're still cocky about it. So that these two characters kind of reminded me of each other in that way. But that is all that I had for The Thief by Whalen Turner. This was my least favorite of the 3 that I read, but I still could find the connections that were made to Iron Man, so I still do recommend this book. And the last book that Epic Reads recommends for Iron Man is City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. Clary heads out one night to a club with her friend just to have some fun when she ends up running into a group of teenagers with weird tattoos that end up murdering someone. After that run-in, she is then thrown into their world, the world of the Shadow Hunters, and she realizes that she actually needs to be a part of this because of her past and what she continues to learn about herself. Now, this is actually my first time reading The Mortal Instruments or anything by Cassandra Clare. I've been told to read this many times before, and I have just been putting it off just because I was informed about this in college in 2014 by my roommate. This is her favorite book series, and she's been meaning to get me to read this. She was actually the one who also sent me the list for this book, so thank you, Cayla. But I finally gotten around to it, and I'm so mad I didn't get into this earlier because I am loving it so far. According to Epic Reads, City of Bones is similar to Iron Man because both of these books, or both of these starters, were the creation of a new series that has gone on for years and years and years. Cassandra Clare has written so many books within the Shadowhunters world, not just the 6 books in the this first main series of the Mortal Instruments, but she has gone on and continues to write new things for the Shadowhunters books within this same universe, just like how Iron Man was the start of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and how that has gone on for so many years and just become more successful. The few things that I was able to get from this to specifically focus on Iron Man was that Clary is thrown into this world that she doesn't really know anything about. She is new to it, but it's just kind of thrust upon her because of events that have happened. And that reminds me of Tony kind of stepping into the role of being a superhero. He has never done anything like that before. He's just used to producing and making things, but now he is chosen because he's kind of been thrust into this world after his escape. He realizes that he is meant for different things, and he is also put into this world to do something different. Also, I think Jace, one of the main Shadowhunters in this book, also kind of reminds me of Tony, just because, again, he's kind of like cocky and full of himself and things like that, thinks he's like the greatest person ever. And I don't know, he just reminds me of Tony in that as well. But that is all I got from City of Bones for Iron Man. And again, I do recommend this too, because if you want to figure out how just one book can start an amazing, expansive world, that's exactly what Iron Man is too. So those are the 3 books that Epic Reads and myself recommend. If you love Iron Man, the 2008 movie, then you should read these books. I can't wait to continue on in this MCU series and to expand upon it too, go past Infinity War and find even more, whether that's through Epic Reads or through my own readings myself. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Let me know if you have any book recommendations that you've read based on Iron Man or that remind you of Iron Man or any other movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I would love, love, love to hear those. Don't forget to like and subscribe, all the fun things like that. And until next time, keep on gabbing.